In this video, I'm basically talking about intuition and the potential pitfalls, I suppose, which can occur if you rely on it in its entirety. There's this kind of notion of trusting our instincts when we come across people, and a lot of us really bank on that, and a lot of us really think, including me by the way, a lot of us really think that whatever our intuitive response is to a particular person when we initially meet them, that could be something which is actually a valid indicator of whether we come to like them or whether we come to dislike them, And something which can happen as a result of doing this is that because you have such a strong preconceived notion of what you're going to experience from this particular person, is that that preconceived notion which you have will be brought to reality as a result of you acting and behaving towards this person in a particular way, because you think that this is what's going to happen, and often as a result you begin to act in ways which reiterate that reality in your mind but also to that particular person, and they begin to respond accordingly, and this is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is like a simple thing to talk about, but I think the implications which that can have on your day-to-day experience are quite profound, because what will happen is, when you're kind of engaging in this kind of thinking, is that you will never really see the person you're communicating with, What you will see is your particular idea of that particular person. And that idea is, again, coming from some experiences you've had in your past which were not the most pleasant, So what is it when we come across someone and we think that we intuitively like them, or when we think that we intuitively dislike them? What's happening in that particular moment is that the series of associations we formed about the reality and about people as a result of our prior experience are kind of coming forward, and they're acting as a kind of rule of thumb or a heuristic, and they're telling us, okay, I think this person is safe, or okay, I think this person or this environment is not safe, These are heuristics which are coming, or associations which have resulted in these broad generalizations, and now we're kind of beginning to anchor upon them in order to make sense of the world around us. And so that's okay, that's fine to do, obviously, because what else are we going to go upon? But I think at times what we can do is we can rely too heavily on that, We can be too certain of what we think about other people or about a particular situation which we find ourselves in. And because we have an emotive response to that particular situation, and a strong emotive response, what we think is that this is telling me what the reality of the situation is, And it will have a grain of truth within it. Obviously it will have a grain of truth within it, but it's not going to tell you the objective truth in that particular moment. And I think the hardest thing which can happen as a result of doing that is that you don't really give other people a chance, and as a result of not giving other people a chance, you can basically maybe avoid true connection which you may have with another person, because your intuitive responses over a series of particular moments when you initially met them or after some time told you that this person is unsuitable for you, That particular series of associations may end up actually misleading you, even though they're coming from a really good place. And conversely, what can happen is that, and this has happened to me, that initially you kind of look at people and you think intuitively this is the right thing, or you look at a situation and you think intuitively this is the right thing. And what can happen is you may realize that in due time that particular person or that particular situation had certain faults which did not meet with your particular idealized conception of what you thought that person or that situation was going to be, And as a result, you feel really upset and hurt and quite betrayed, actually, and that's deeply, deeply painful, and it kind of deeply upsets us. It has upset me on numerous occasions. And it doesn't really work out, It can become quite challenging and difficult to cope with that particular situation. And so I suppose the point which I'm trying to make is that when we come across individuals at the start, our intuitions tell us particular things about them. And what can happen often is that we bank on that, or if you are someone like me, maybe you can bank on that way too strongly. And later on, there may be a series of evidence which is kind of presented to us subsequently, and we don't really acknowledge it truly, because we have this preconceived notion that this is what this person is, or this is what the situation is, good or bad, and we don't want to let that go. And I think that can be quite problematic, because sometimes we are around genuinely warm and kind people, but because we don't have a reference point for receiving that kind of kindness, because before all our associations which have formed previously have told us that this particular person is unsafe and they're not okay and we should not be talking to them, then what we do is we can anchor on that way too strongly and ignore the actual reality of the situation, which is far more pleasant than our mind or our emotions are telling us in that particular moment. And the reverse can happen too, where our mind and emotions tell us that this is the right thing because our prior associations and references are telling us that this is the right thing. But actually, in reality, that might not be the case. In reality, this person may not be good for us. This situation may not be actually fruitful for us, But we're hanging on to those associations, and sometimes we will hang on to those associations as if our life depends on it. We may actually end up spending huge periods of times around people who are actually terrible for us and not good for us and are making us miserable, but just because we have these strong emotive associations which are telling us that they are, or at one point they told us that they were, that we actually end up sticking around, and really torturing ourselves for no good reason.